if you resist it. But if you say, this is what the Creator wants, it's for my best. This right now, me being stuck in traffic when I'm late for an appointment, that's not right? Me being stuck in traffic is I am going to accept this. This is what the Creator wants, and this is a way how God is removing the barriers and bringing me closer to Him. Patience is an amazing art, the ultimate art, really, along with Emunah. So when you accept suffering, if you want to call it that, any kind of mishaps with love, that automatically, according to Kabbalah, sweetens the judgments. And usually, if you can do it and you're real about it, that's where the turnaround happens. But if you're constantly resisting it, no bueno, señor, no bueno. Because you have to figure out that everything is coming from Hashem. Even our own mistakes. Definitely when other people do things to us, and definitely when things happen by nature. So the cripple heard all this. I'm just going in the footnotes there. Thus the cripple had a yerida letzorech aliyah, a lowering for the sake of elevation. It's an amazing line, and you have to always know that. A lowering for the sake of elevation. Kol yerida tzorech aliyah. Big rule. The person gets down and things don't go his way. He has to know this because he has now lost the ability to even stand. And now, because of all of this, he learned how to cure his feet so that he would be able to now walk. In other words, now that he had the robbers and they took all of his stuff and he has to crawl and he got so weak he couldn't even stand, it ended up giving him the ability to pluck that grass and transport him to the place of the powders where he put his feet and he became healed. So we looked at the diamond, and we don't want to go into that. But the other side of the diamond, if he had not grasped the other side first, then he would have not known what to do if he got to the place of the path. Great. A nice highway, path reaching out, very nice. He wouldn't know what to do. He had to go first to the place where the sun and the moon meet. Okay. Now, once again, he says once he put his feet on the path, he immediately became healed, since he is an aspect of the moon, and this denotes the Messiah. Here he becomes the Mashiach. Here is the cripple who we thought was crippled, who we thought couldn't walk and even couldn't stand. But really now he has superpowers within his feet, which is the ability, the mastery of Emunah, to know that every single thing is flowing so perfectly. God is in total control of everything. So now to go on here in the note, so he decided after that, and he healed and he gathered all of the powders, and he wanted to go. Now, it doesn't explain the powders here, does it? Right? Let's go back and see what Rabbi Kaplan says about the powder. I think that's on, let me just go back. I don't know if I'm there any, powder. It's on page 88. You guys skipped something. Okay. Yeah, we did skip. I'm sorry about that. My computer plays tricks on me. But everything, even that too, comes from Hashem. Yes, it does. Oh, Rabbi. Come on. In any case, the powder. What is the powder? So on the bottom of 88, you'll see a note here. Till in Yiddish, powder yourselves with the dust of their feet. This may denote the standard prayers, which are often disrupted by the forces of evil. And see Likutei Moharan 410. I didn't look at that Likutei Moharan. But he does seem to say, Rabbi Nachmans does say in Sikot Aran, that, people always have the thought or the dichotomy, the question about if they're praying in a synagogue and they're disturbed by somebody else doing something else in the synagogue. So, some people might go, shh, right? But Where I come from, the school I come from is no, you're not concentrating. You're not concentrating. That's why. And Rabbi Nachmans says, no, it's possible. People will disturb you when you're praying and you're trying to tune in and meditate, focus on being with God. And it could be that people will disturb your prayers. Now, he calls this the standard prayers. Now, I don't know where he got to that from, but if you look in Pirkei Avot, there is a thing by you should always cling to the stages, right? Heve mistabek ba'afar raglehem. Become dusted by the footsteps, by ba'afar raglehem, in the dust of their feet. That is like the Mishnaic source that we see for powder or a dust, where a person is instructed to always cling to the sages. Now, there's a lot of meanings by Misabek Bafar Lehem. Just the simple meaning is the students then used to sit on the ground and the rabbis would sit on a chair. And so they were like drinking the knowledge of the wisdom of the sages. Some people would say following the dust of their feet, they're walking and you're so close to them because you're observing them, wanting to learn and role model them in the best way possible. It doesn't give really enough of an answer for me. But I did look in the Zohar and something pretty interesting, and it does fit with this story. It spoke about the four elements, and there's different angels that are in charge of four elements. And it speaks about, let's say, we have, right, you have earth, wind, fire, and water, right? Water is Michael, fire is Gabriel, the wind is Uriel, and the dust is Raphael. Afar, the language of Afar in Hebrew is Aleph, Pei, Resh, and those are the same words in Raphael, in terms of the root, Rapha, okay, Raphael. Interestingly enough, how can these powder, believe me, I'm still in a search for the powder. I got to get to the path of the powders. What is this path of the powders? I did see once, a kind of few moons ago, I saw in a Tikkun Zohar Hadash, and I tried to look for it again. I couldn't find it. And it spoke about the dust of the feet. And it was interesting how there are these souls that they don't quite make it, right? They don't quite make it to be incorporated in the holy righteous, in the body of the soul. So they're considered to be almost like out. They're out. Not outcast, but they're not incorporated to be. They're only considered to be dust. An interesting thing about these souls that are in the dust is they have influence. They're in this world, and there's an influence. So, in a certain sense, I'm only scratching the surface. Like I don't really have any direct answers. But it seems to be that the dust that he's referring to in these highways are different influences. And this is kind of maybe what this, who's the ex-cripple now, put the dust on the floors, and then these people, the thieves got influenced, the head of the thieves got influenced by these. He got healed by it. So there's influence there that's available in the what we call it? Forgot the ether. Yeah, let's call it the ether. Okay. Cosmic ether that connects all beings, the substance before things break down to earth, wind, fire, and water. So there is an influence there that a person can attach himself to more and more into this and that and this and that. And therefore he's open to that healing through the thoughts that are in the mind, because it always starts, it's going to be starting with the thoughts. To go back a little bit, we have to recap on something that I'm sure is you're all very, very tickled with. And that is the issue of the moon. The complaint of the moon, we got the tree, we got the sun, it dries up the tree. Our intellect can be so caught up with itself that it just dries up any kind of ideas of healing or goodness, maybe because we're caught up with own thoughts or people just study for the sake of wisdom. They study Torah for the sake of wisdom to just become smarter. It could be all kinds of things that somehow results in the sun overdoing its purpose, which is drying up the tree. Really what we want is the tree to get watered. So now go on to page 88, and there's the note. So it says here, the sun represents wisdom, like I said. The sun represents wisdom. And here we see that wisdom without faith, i.e. the moon, can destroy the Torah. Every single thing that we learn about the Torah, every single thing about the Torah is to get you to one thing and one thing. That's a moon. If it doesn't get you there, then you got to reconsider your path in terms of your attitude in approaching Torah study. My problem, the moon says, as we shall see later, if the tree were properly watered, it would also destroy the demons. Therefore, the fact that the sun is drying up the tree is the reason that the moon is suffering. So we see that the sun is actually contributing to a blemish in the moon, which, interestingly enough, sometimes the intellect does. It will rationalize. It gets into only things that are rational. That's probably one of the biggest things. As opposed to, let's say, letting the moon do the driving. Give the moon the wheel. That's a new T-shirt design here. And allow the moon to guide. But you can't have it guide totally. You need both. You need to be in the place where the sun and the moon meet. So here we see that the fact that the sun is drying up the tree is the reason that the moon is suffering. The moon is the source of water. He brings that down in Sikhot Aran. I saw it. Moisture comes from the moon. I don't have any understanding to this. I don't know if that has to deal with science per se. But in any case, we'll talk about this water that is coming from the moon. Interestingly enough, how wild, if you were now to look at that thought just for a moment, that if you were to allow your emunah, your faith, to grow to tremendous, tremendous, tremendous wholeness, to mamish really, right, cultivate and grow that emunah to such a degree that would water the tree. That would be an incredible thing. So like the source of the water is the moon, emunah. And don't forget, in the beginning of the story, the father says, water trees. Okay. 1,000 mountains, these may be the beasts in 1,000 mountains that it speaks about in Psalms Nun 50, and the place of the demons. And these were the mountains of the east from which Bilam got his power. In Hebrew, demons are called shadim. We actually really, according to Kabbalah, we don't say that word at night. Sometimes we'll say, if it's nighttime, shin daled. Okay, we don't like to say it. Because don't forget, we hold that every letter has an energy and it's a vibration. And when you say certain words and certain things, you are igniting that vibration within your psyche and attracting it. We're very much connected. We're in a huge interconnected web of existence that Hashem has built. We're all connected. So we're careful with sometimes at night saying these words, but it's daytime for me, it's daytime for you, so we'll use the word shading. Right? And look at this. According to tradition, they were created at twilight, just before the Shabbos, the fun first Shabbos. Since the Shabbos pertains to Malchut, the demons have a special attachment to Malchut. What does that mean? Just to read the next one, because we'll talk a little bit about demons in case that you don't know, and give you a little bit of that. They have feet like chickens. Okay? Are you talking about rabbis? So there's a Talmud that says if you want to know they exist, forget about if you want to see them. They give the formula for that. I'm not going to get into that. I know everybody's very intrigued with wanting to see it, but if you want to know they exist, it says take powder ashes from the oven and put it around your bed at night. Go to sleep, wake up in the morning, and you'll see chicken prints all around your bed. That's if you want to know that they exist. Yes, I did want to film this as a Torah Mythbusters. Have my friend Yehuda sleep in an abandoned warehouse with ashes around, of course, and see if that's going to happen. I never got around to it. In any case, what does that mean? So it's the simple explanation And I'll explain right now, falsehood has no feet. They're weak in their feet. In other words, they don't have much to stand on. First, let's take a step. What are you talking about, Rabbi? What are demons? I thought Torah doesn't believe in those things. It's not true. But actually, it's a three-way argument in terms of what they are made out of, are they. I will give you the language that it brings down in the Midrash in Genesis that, God first made the souls. First, he made the souls of the animals. He made the soul of man. And then he made the souls of the demons. And then, now this is on the sixth day of creation. And then he made the bodies of the animals. He took the souls of the animals and put them in the bodies. Then he made the body of man. And he took the soul of man and he put it into the body of man. And then it came time to make the bodies for the demons. But Shabbos, sorry, we're closed. Okay? It's like one of those, turn the sign from open to close and you draw the curtain down, right? In other words, Shabbos came, and therefore, the Midrash, this is the language of the Midrash. What it means, I'll try to explain. They learned, therefore we can learn. It's so amazing, the Midrash. Therefore, we learn derech eretz, etiquette, from the demons. Why? Because if you're walking and you have some kind of, and you're walking and it's Shabbos, it's almost Shabbos, and therefore somebody says, hey, it's Shabbos, you drop it, right? You're not going to deal with it because it's a muksa item you're not allowed to carry. So in other words, you don't want to desecrate the Shabbos, you drop it. No, Hashem is beyond time and space. Don't give me this, that there's no time to make bodies for the demons. Don't, come on, really? And he made him at twilight. Rabbi Yehuda Fataya explains, he's a big Makubal who lived in the 19th century, the turn of the 19th century, that he explained that, they're in response to Adam sinning in the Garden of Eden. If Adam had not sinned, these things would not have created. There were 10 things that God created in twilight, just before sundown, on the eve of the first Shabbos, after Adam had sinned. He says as a result of Adam sinning that Hashem had to configure, of course he knew he was going to do this, he had to make a new configuration in order to set up creation in order to how things were going to be fixed. You can go look at that. It's in Pirkei Avos. It brings it down here where that is. On the eve of the Shabbos. One of them is Shadim. Now Shadim, the way we spell a shade is Shin Dalet. That's really what it is. It's a shin and a dalet. Now, just to give you a little contrast, we have a bris milah, and the bris milah, the crown that's revealed when a person has a circumcision. So there's a dot. It's a yud. We look at that as a yud. We call that a yud. So therefore, we are the people of shin, dalet, and yud. L'taken, we say no aleinu. L'saken olam b'malchus shakai. L'taken, to do tikkun olam, this is where tikkun olam is mentioned. L'saken olam, to do tikkun olam, to fix the world with the kingdom of heaven. Okay? And interestingly enough, okay, kingdom of heaven as opposed to kingdom of shindalits. Who are these? What are these? What are you talking about, Rabbi? This is crazy what you're saying. There's these entities that are existing. So it's a three-way argument that it brings down. But some people say they are in our minds. They are damaging forces. Really not a physical thing, entities. Right? Some people say they're actually entities. And there's so many passages throughout the entire Talmud where the rabbis are dealing with demons, they're talking to them. King Solomon, he's dealing with demons. And that's how actually, I think, how they are. The sages always knew that demons have chicken feet is because I think there was a great story that it brings in the Talmud in Gittin, where in order to build the temple, King Solomon needed to get this type of worm that cuts rock because they couldn't use an iron tool to build the temple. And so they had to get this worm called the Shamir worm. And the only way he can get it from was to find the king of the demons and hold him, capture him. His name was Ashmedai. I'm not here going to give you the whole story about those two. But, well, of course, it just goes to figure, that, in the story, finally, a lot of times there's a dialogue between the two. King Solomon would interview Ashmedai, and he says, what makes you guys so much greater than us? And so King Solomon had a ring with God's name that gave him power over the demon. He says, take off the ring and I'll show you. As soon as he took off the ring, so that's when Ashmedai basically took him and just transported him 400 miles away. And he put him in a stupor. He barely knew who he was. Till he finally came to his senses that he's King Solomon. He made his way down to Jerusalem and is banging on the doors of the palace and going, I'm King Solomon, man, let me in. And this, they hear a banging on the door and they go, who's this guy? He claims he's King Solomon. If he's crazy, he would usually change the story, come back with another story. So they decided to make a query throughout the entire palace where King Solomon is. And of course, finally, he's not the Beis Midrash. He doesn't show up with the rabbis. He hasn't been a long time. Finally, they ask the harem. Yeah, all the women say he comes every day he comes. And they go, The sages are very smart. They say, when he comes, do you see his feet? No, he's always wearing socks. And therefore, beware people always wear. Okay. It's maybe. Okay. In any case, I forgot why I got into that because of the sock wearing, because they really have nothing to stand on. There's lots to talk about it, but I'm just going to cut to the chase here. What's this deal in this strange language of Hashem creating these demons? And the idea really here is this is all the effect or the creation of free will. Hashem needed to create free will. In order to create free will, you have to have entities that are going to help facilitate free will. And so these are these entities which basically got ripped off on Friday. They were supposed to get a body. They never got a body. And they're upset about it. And therefore, they want to get revenge. And therefore, they want to afflict man. But they can't afflict man unless he's on a low spiritual level. In other words, he's got to be like related to the lowest of the lows of Malchut, the lowest of the Sphirot. He's got to be on the bottom because only they can attach themselves and feed off of him. If a person's on a higher spiritual level, they can't even see that person if you hold it, their entities. And there's so many stories, and we can go into it for a long time, about the people who see entities underground and the people who do remote viewing, and all of a sudden they become like infatuated with the grays, these whole societies of villages of people here, there. Remote viewing is this way that they were doing tests. The CIA in the Cold War, maybe even before, maybe World War II, how to put coordinates of a place behind enemy lines, and then to try to get the person to go ahead to get out of body to move those coordinates. What? I've been offline all this time? What happened? Oh my gosh, how long has this been like that? 1 second. Just 1 second here, folks. I didn't realize I was offline like that. Did that? May. Okay. Just 1 second, folks. Sorry for the interruption.
Rabbi, if I might just say, I personally was able to hear you, but at times the visual froze.
Really?
That was my experience.
The door in order to block out the noise of my family because it's 7 o'clock here. Okay. Just 1 second. Okay. Oh. I think that Hashem doesn't want me to talk about demons too, because it's too weird. I used to be the X-Files family. I used to be the X-Files, the youth group, the NCSY. Okay. Okay. So here we are. We're back. Sorry about that interruption. All right. So the idea of the demons is a three-way argument, whether they are a complete something in the mind, whether they are a composite of, like, I think it was water, fire. I don't know which one, which composites, which one of the elements, not dust. Okay. Air and fire or something like that. And another place said that no, they're actual entities. And there's many, many Gemorahs which go ahead and support that they're actual entities. But there was one passage in the Talmud which says that they were forbidden to be in civilized areas. And therefore, they were banned, and therefore they had to go underground. And this could be the reason why all these people have these experiences of entities under the ground. And a lot of kind of reasons, that we have. The best answer that I've heard seems to be the one that resonates to me the most true in terms of all of the UFO sightings and the alien abductions and all that kind of weird stuff. As the Torah only gives two things. You're either an angel or you're a demon. If you're not a human, you're an angel or you're a demon. I'll go into the demons and how they were created on the eve of Shabbos. We explained already, but basically it's a way that how God needed there to be elements, agents of free will, or agents that really will affect judgments. So demons are these entities, whether they're completely spiritual, in the mind. You're going to see how they are in the later passages here, that they are involved in getting a person to have doubts about God, or to affect punishments and play tricks on people. They even whisper things in your ears, things like that. We say are a result of the demons. So whether they are real or not, one thing you don't have to worry about is if you have mezuzahs on your door. And it does say, hey, listen, it brings down the very beginning of the Talmud that a person should not go into a building that was destroyed. One of the reasons is because mazikin is another word for shadim, that will damage a person. I don't want to get into it, but the idea here is they are agents which affect or participate or facilitate free will for a person. So now going on now in the story, okay, we have the place of the demons, and the demons really have no feet on their own because their feet are like chicken, and therefore they pull nourishment from Malchut, from the lowest of the 10 Sfirot. As we know, the feet of Malchut from Atzilut goes into Bria, where the forces of evil can draw nourishment from. Her feet, we have a famous phrase, her feet go down to death. Raglea Yoredis Maves, which every single thing is about us and our generation, and we are the people of the limping feet. Okay? We are the generation of the lame. Just like Yaakov Avinu, before the final redemption came, was limping, so too we can consider ourselves and our generations severely as limping, but it's a good thing. Okay? That's a very good thing. So now to get to the point here, so we see that these entities take the force, the emunah of the moon, the feet of the moon, which represents emunah, meaning they blemish it. They cause damage to it. They don't want the tree to be watered, as you're going to see. So once again, it brings down in the footnote here that feet represents worldly involvement, and it's from this that the forces of evil can gain nourishment. If a person gets too involved, that's where they can creep in and impart their influence to some degree. The foot represents faith, emunah. So it is therefore taught that a person should sell the beams of his house to buy shoes. That's an interesting one. Shoes are a very interesting thing, and I'm always intrigued. My father-in-law, Zichron Livracha, he was always also intrigued that when the brothers sold Joseph, they took the money, 5 shekels, and bought shoes with it because there was a sale at Payless. So in any case, because it was sale at Payless. So here, obviously, they wanted to go ahead and give themselves an existence. They wanted to give themselves something to stand with. Shoes carry you into the future. So that's the idea. So therefore, here to go on in the note there on page 88, I do not have any strength in my own feet. If the trees were watered, the moon's troubles would cease, because the demons would then be destroyed, as we're going to see later on. It appears that the problems of the moon inflected in the cripple. Here's where we fuse the both of them together. The cripple and the moon are one. So it's almost as if when he touched that diamond and he was transported to the place where the sun and moon are having this dialogue. So it's really he's talking about himself. And really, we can understand this in terms of ourselves as well. Okay, let's just go a little bit more here, okay? Now, see here he says Rabbi Nachman, quite simple. Rabbi Nachman taught that the blemish of the moon, blemish of faith, which is an aspect of weak feet. So obviously we're understanding the Mashiach is having superpower in his feet, which means he has superpower emunah. And what does that look like? What does that feel like? How could you project that? Can you perceive that in any way? Because don't forget, every person has an element of the soul of the Mashiach within him, within his soul. So now a person can also, with that, get an idea that there is a place within a person's psyche, within a person's soul, where he can connect to the soul of the Mashiach that has superpower and emunah. One of the recent ideas that I came out with, and it's still a construct for me, so I can't say it's for sure, but the word emunah, of course, means faith. It also means like amon, which means craft, like a craft tool. And I also like to translate it as the power to believe. In other words, if a person would really utilize within his psyche to understand, if he believes in it, the power of his belief in a holy way, because the highest idea is only to attach to the Ein Sof, to use it for holy purposes. But he has the power of his emunah, can mamish take on anything, transform anything. Power, actually, emunah or malchut, is the power of total transformation. I learned. I think it brings that down in inner space. Okay? Because it's the woman who takes the seed from the man and transforms it into a human being. King David takes the fragmented kingdom and unites it, turns it into something completely different. It's got a huge transformation principle in there. It can actually turn something and twist it, like mold it like clay. Imagine if you could take reality that you would think would be a solid table and you could mold it into something else. You can't create it, something from nothing. because only Hashem does that. But the power of emunah that we can have, that we can harness to transform our lives, our destiny, and the world, that is really where our destination is lying. Okay? And we spoke about the powder, which one's going to try to figure out. Okay? But the weird thing is here that what kind of powder does the moon have? And then what is this wind that blows it away? And then the weird thing is, how is the moon ever going to be healed with the powder? The sun goes ahead and says, oh, I know a place. They have a great powder there. It can heal you right away. Okay? You're wondering the power. What's powder? Okay, I've got it. It's the song now. Mm-hmm. Okay? So in any case, if there's a wind that comes and blows it away, how can the powder that the sun is telling the moon about keep? It doesn't, is kind of strange. Wouldn't you say? We're going to leave it off right now. We're going to get into part 2 next time because we have to go on in terms of when the Cripple is going to go to the place of these mountains. I'll leave you with something interesting that I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. So what do we cover today? The idea here is emunah and building emunah and accessing the emunah is within us. To access the Messiah, the Mashiach, the soul of the Mashiach within us, would be to also access the power of emunah that we have. That means when things happen, whether up or down, that you have to be able to harness the power. The 3 main thoughts is, this is what the Creator wants. Every single thing Hashem does is for the absolute best. And then, of course, this is only to bring me closer to God. So the idea we have to really incorporate these things and constantly drill it into our psyche. And then we can join then with the place where the sun and the moon meet, meaning our intellect and our emotions, because to get it in the emotional sense, to get it in the place where it's a conviction. It's one thing to believe it, but to believe it with a very deep conviction, that creates powerful energy, creates the angel that will lead us and guide us to our higher destiny. Okay, we will stop here with that, and I will leave it open for